Okay, so maybe you're thinking about factory work, like actually being a factory hand. I feel like there's this whole image people have.
Yeah, like kind of repetitive, maybe even.
Yeah, like kind of grimy.
Exactly.
But what I thought was cool about this role catcher guide is it lays out like this whole career path thing, not just like, oh, you're
Yeah.
going to be an entry-level factory hand forever.
Right.
Yeah.
What was fascinating to me is they break it down into like these three distinct stages.
Yeah.
You got your entry level, then you got your junior factory hand, and then you got your senior factory hand. And each of those has a different set of responsibilities and expectations, so it shows a clear path for progression, which I thought was interesting.
So it's not just like you're stuck at the same level forever. Like,
Right. Yeah, you
yeah.
can like level up essentially. Like for example, a junior factory hand might be training newcomers, whereas a senior factory hand might be overseeing an entire operation or working with the supply chain, for example, which is a huge difference in responsibility and probably pay as well.
Okay, that's super interesting. Okay, but let's back up a little bit because you said a junior factory hand might be training. Like, what are they doing? What does a factory hand DO on like a daily basis?
Yeah, so RoleCatcher kind of paints this picture of someone who's really the backbone of this production line.
Yeah.
They're assisting machine operators and assemblers, keeping things clean and organized, making sure materials are stocked. It's very much, think of it like being the stage manager for a play.
Okay.
You're not in the spotlight.
Gotcha.
But the show can't go on without you.
Okay, that makes sense. Although I will say the guide did mention hazards. Any idea what those might be? I mean, they didn't get too specific.
It doesn't get super specific, but just based on what it describes the work environment as, like you're dealing with noise, you're dealing with dust, there's a potential for, heavy lifting. It seems like, to me at least, safety is probably a pretty big deal.
Like, because you're working with machinery.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of which, it also says you don't necessarily need specific qualifications to get started. Is that true?
That's what it seems like. They really emphasize the on-the-job training aspect of it. And in fact, they list the average salary as $25,000 to $35,000, which says to me this is an entry-level position with room to grow.
Oh, that's good to know because some people, they think, oh, factory work, that means I need like a certification or something.
Right.
But no. Okay. That's really good to know. Now, here's something I thought was really cool. So RoleCatcher, they apparently have this whole AI thing, this whole system where it helps you tailor your resume, practice for interviews, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, it wasn't just like generic advice. They actually like give you specific interview questions that you would get asked for a factory hand job.
That's right. And I think that's where this deep dive gets really relevant for people, because it's one thing to kind of understand what the job is, but then when you're actually in that hot seat trying to get the job,
Right.
that's where, the rubber meets the road.
So what are some of those questions? Like, if I'm going into a factory hand interview,
Yeah.
like what are some things they said to be prepared for?
So, for example, they mentioned, being prepared to answer questions about how you prioritize tasks under pressure. That's obviously a big one because, if you're working in a factory, things are moving fast.
Yeah.
You got to be able to juggle multiple things at once. They also talked about your experience with machinery. Have you worked with machinery before? What's your comfort level with that?
Right.
And even things like, how would you handle hazardous materials safely? So really trying to get at, can you handle the nitty gritty of this job?
Yeah, because it's one thing to talk about it, and it's another thing when like the machine starts going beep, 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 and like red lights are flashing.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to be able to stay calm under pressure.
Exactly. Okay, so that's huge. Just like having those kinds of examples in mind. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
It's not just, theoretical. You got to be able to think on your feet, if a situation arises.
Totally. Okay, so we're talking about staying calm under pressure.
Yeah.
What are some other skills they highlighted? Like, what are those must-have qualities that make a factory hand stand out?
They really emphasized, and I think this is important, those soft skills,
Yeah.
like teamwork, communication, problem solving. These are actually super, super valuable in this kind of environment, even more so maybe than some, corporate office job.
Oh, interesting. Okay, say more about that because, yeah, when I think factory, I think like machines.
Right. Yeah.
Like, are you saying that it's not just about operating the machine, but it's about like working with your team to keep the whole thing running?
Exactly. It's not just you and this piece of equipment. You're part of a whole ecosystem. And they actually gave some cool examples in the guide of how these soft skills come into play, like in a factory setting.
Okay, give me an example. Like, what does that look like in action?
Like imagine the conveyor belt jams, right?
Oh, okay.
The whole line comes to a screeching halt.
Oh, no.
Right. You can't just be like, oh, well, not my problem.
Right. Not my department.
Exactly. So you need to be able to communicate clearly with your teammates. You need to be able to problem solve on the fly, like what's going on? How do we fix this? And you got to do it quickly because time is money.
Yeah, totally. So it's like high-pressure teamwork almost.
That's a good way to put it. And they actually highlighted that these skills, they're not just important for like day-to-day operations, but they can actually help you move up that career ladder that we were talking about. Remember we talked about those 3 stages, the entry level, the junior, the senior.
Right. Like you can level up.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to know more about that. Like, what does that actually look like on the job, those different stages?
So like entry level, you're starting out, right? You're learning the ropes, you're mastering the essential tasks. So think like keeping your work area spotless, assisting those machine operators, making sure the supplies are stocked. You're the one that people can count on to just make sure things are running smoothly.
You're building that foundation.
Exactly. Solid foundation.
Okay. So then how do you go from entry level to junior factory hand? What's the difference?
So that's where you start to take on a little bit more responsibility.
Okay.
So you're not just assisting anymore. You're getting a little bit more involved in that actual production process.
Okay.
So like setting up and operating those machines, doing quality checks on the products that are coming down the line, maybe even, starting to manage the inventory.
Okay. So you're not just keeping the machine running, you're like understanding how it works, right? A little more like engineering almost.
Yeah, you're getting into the nitty-gritty.
Okay. I like it. And then what? So you're a junior factory hand, you're like feeling good. What's the next step?
Well, and this is cool too. At that stage, at that junior factory hand stage, you're also starting to like mentor.
Right. Okay.
So those entry-level folks that are coming in, you're passing on the knowledge, you're passing on the experience, you're kind of bringing them up to speed.
You're building things, but you're also building up the team.
Exactly.
Okay. But now I got to know, like, what's the view from the top?
Right.
What does a senior factory hand do?
So they are like the conductors of the orchestra. They're overseeing that entire operation, making sure everything is running like that well-oiled machine.
Okay.
They're the ones who are developing and implementing those efficient workflows, thinking about productivity, mentoring those junior factory hands. They're like the go-to expert.
Wow. So that's like a real leadership role.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's like it actually gives you a chance to not just learn a job, but like develop your skills over time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And they actually had, remember those example profiles they gave where they kind of painted a picture of like, what does this actually look like for a real person? Not just like a list of duties.
Oh, yeah. No, those were cool. Like actually like putting a face to the name or
right, exactly.
putting a personality to it.
Humanizing it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of like, what did they say? Like the entry level person, like what are they like?
So they described someone, and I think this is important, someone who's eager to learn.
Okay.
Someone who takes pride in a job well done, even if that job is, cleaning and assisting.
Okay.
They have a great eye for detail because, remember, quality control, that starts from the moment those raw materials come in.
Right. If the workspace is a mess, that could lead to mistakes, delays, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the junior factory hand then? What sets them apart?
So they've kind of taken those basic skills and they've really honed them. They're confident in their abilities. They can spot a quality issue from like a mile away.
Okay.
They've developed that sixth sense about, keeping the inventory in check.
Okay.
They're proactive. They're not waiting for things to go wrong. They're like, okay, what can I anticipate? How can I stay ahead of this?
I like it. Okay, last one. Paint me a picture of that senior factory hand.
Wow.
What makes them leadership material?
This is someone who has seen it all, done it all, right? They're not just going through the motions. They're actually using their experience to make the whole operation better.
Okay.
More efficient, more productive. They're mentors, they're problem solvers, and they really have that big picture thinking that's so crucial at that level.
Wow. Okay, you've sold me, I think. I never thought about it like this before. Like there's actually like a lot of depth to being a factory hand, which I don't know. I just never Never really consider. Again, this is why I love our deep dives.
Right. It's all about like, peeling back those layers and challenging those assumptions.
Exactly.
Because it's easy to kind of, have these preconceived notions about what a job entails.
Totally, totally. Okay, so we've talked about those different stages. We've talked about the skills. But you know what we haven't really gotten into yet?
What's that?
The nitty-gritty of the interview?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like we mentioned it briefly.
You teased it a little bit.
But RoleCatcher, they get really specific about the kinds of questions they ask
Yeah.
and what they're really looking for, which I think is super helpful if you're actually considering this kind of career move.
Definitely. Yeah, because like we said, it's one thing to know the job in theory, but when you're actually in that room,
Yeah,
you got to be prepared. It's game time.
totally, totally. Okay, so like let's say I'm prepping for a factory job interview tomorrow. What are like some of the must-know things they highlighted? Like what do they really want to know?
So, first and foremost, be ready to talk about your experience. Like, have you worked in this kind of setting before?
Yeah.
What were your responsibilities? They want to see that you can actually handle the pace, the demands of this kind of job.
That makes sense. Like you don't want to show up and be like, "What's a forklift?"
Exactly. You don't want to be surprised on day one.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? What else did they say to be prepared for?
Quality control. That's a big one. How do you make sure those products, they meet the standards?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Attention to detail is huge in this line of work because, one small error,
Yeah.
it can snowball into a huge problem.
Totally. There's no like good enough on the factory floor,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Nope. Precision is key.
okay. So experience, quality control. What about those like curveball questions? Like the ones that like you don't really know how to prep for?
Oh, yeah. Be ready for those behavioral questions.
Mm-hmm.
So they might ask you, like, how do you prioritize tasks when everything's hitting the fan at once? Or, like, how do you deal with a difficult colleague? How do you handle the pressure? They want to see that you can stay calm, you can think clearly, you can be a team player, even when things get a little bit chaotic.
Okay, so it's not just about like, can you work the machine? It's like, what's your personality like?
Exactly.
What's your work ethic like? Can you problem solve?
Exactly. And again, this is where those soft skills
Yes.
that we keep coming back to, they're not just buzzwords.
Right.
They are essential for success.
Okay, so we've talked about like day-to-day, the career progression, interview questions, all this stuff, but like zoom out for a second. Like why should someone listening to this even consider this? Like why factory hand?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? Like,
Yeah.
why this career path? And I think there's a few really compelling answers. I mean, first of all, job security. The manufacturing industry, it's always going to need skilled workers. And factory hands, they're the backbone.
That's a good point. Especially like these days, like, everything feels kind of shaky.
Right, exactly.
So knowing that, like, okay, this is a skill that's in demand,
Yeah,
that's huge.
absolutely. And then second, you don't necessarily need that 4-year degree to get your foot in the door, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
You can start earning a good living, building a career without, a ton of student loan debt.
Yes, 100%.
And then I think third, and this is a little bit more maybe intangible,
Okay.
but there's something really satisfying about working with your hands, about seeing a product come together from start to finish.
Yeah. It's like that like feeling of accomplishment when you make something,
Exactly.
but like on a bigger scale.
Yeah. You're part of something tangible, you're building something real, and it's something that people use every day.
Totally. Totally. And you get to like see the whole process, not just
The
like
whole thing.
your little part.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
But okay, so there's a lot of good things about this career path. What about the flip side? Like who is it not for? Who should listen to this and be like, yeah, hard pass?
Yeah, as much as I think there's a lot of positives here,
Yeah.
it's not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can't stand the thought of physical work, if being on your feet all day,
Yeah.
if loud noises make you cringe, if you really just like you can't imagine yourself being part of a team,
Yeah. Leave me alone. I'm building this by myself.
right? Exactly. Then yeah, this might not be the right fit.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
But like you said, for the right person,
It could be a great opportunity.
that sounds like it.
Huh.
Okay. Well, you know what I love about RoleCatcher? It's not just about the information, right?
Yeah.
Like they give you the info, which is great, but they also,
It give you the tools.
yes, they have that whole AI thing.
They put their money where their mouth is, essentially.
Yes. Okay. Tell me more about that because we've talked about it in previous deep dives. But like specifically for factory hands, what can they do?
So their whole platform is really designed to give you that competitive edge, right? Especially, these days, job market's tough.
Yeah, yeah, you got to stand out.
Exactly. So, for example, they have this thing, it's called the CV Resume Builder,
Okay.
and it doesn't just spit out like a generic template. It uses AI to actually tailor your application to the specific job you're going for.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like having like a resume writer,
Yeah.
but without having to pay like,
Hundreds of dollars.
hundreds of dollars. Exactly. Okay.
It highlights those skills, that experience that hiring managers, especially in the manufacturing industry, are going to be looking for. And it can even help you, get past those applicant tracking systems.
Oh, tell me more about that.
That can be like black holes.
Yes. You send your resume into the void and you're like, did they even get it?
Exactly. So this can help you get noticed.
Okay, that's huge. That's huge. What about the interview itself?
Yeah.
So you've used the AI, you've made your perfect resume, you've gotten the interview, you're like nervous,
Yeah.
sweating, you know the deal.
Yeah.
What can RoleCatcher do?
Okay, so get this. They have this thing called video practice,
Okay.
where you can actually record yourself answering common interview questions, right?
Okay.
And then you get AI-powered feedback on your performance.
Wait, hold on. It analyzes your answers?
Yeah.
Like it tells you if you're like rambling or like
It can tell if you're rambling.
so many ums.
Too many ums. Yeah, your body language, your tone of voice, like the content of your answers.
Oh, wow.
It gives you personalized tips.
Okay, that's next level.
Right.
Like they've really thought of everything.
And I think that's what I like about it is
Yeah.
it's not just like a one-size-fits-all.
Right. It's tailored to you.
Yeah, exactly. And they even have this feature where it like analyzes like job descriptions and suggests like what to wear
Oh my God.
based on the company culture.
So you don't show up in a suit and tie and everyone's like, in jeans and a huh.
Exactly.
I love it. This is why I love technology.
Right.
It's like you have this whole team of like career coaches
In your pocket.
in your pocket. Okay, wow. So RoleCatcher, major props. This is incredible. It's really amazing how they're using AI to not just help people find jobs, but like really empower them.
I think that's a really important distinction to make.
It's one thing to like get a job,
Right.
but it's another thing to be like, this is my career path. I'm excited about it. There's room for growth.
You have a future.
I have a future. Exactly. And who knew? Like
Yeah.
factory hand, that's a career path.
It really challenges those preconceived notions, right?
Totally. Which is what we like to do on this show.
Exactly.
Keep an open mind, explore those options. Well, this has been so eye-opening, I feel like. We've learned so much about a career path that I think a lot of people probably like write off.
Yeah, for sure. It's not the first thing that comes to mind.
Exactly. So big thanks to RoleCatcher for the amazing resources, and to you, our listeners, for coming on this journey of discovery with us.
Always a pleasure to dive deep with you.
And remember, listeners, if you had to pick one thing you want to know about a company's culture before you would even consider working there, what would it be? What's your non-negotiable? That's something to ponder. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.